Thank you, everybody. It's great to be back in Lisbon. I think both of us who are traveling can say that. Why don't we go around the room and just do a quick set of intros. Carmen, start with you.
Of course. So hi, I'm Carolina from Atomico. Atomico, for those who don't know, it's a London-based tech investment firm. We invest globally, but we're really focused in Europe. Very excited about the Portuguese ecosystem. Obviously, with the Uniplaces being sort of our first investment in the country. Atomico was founded by Nicholas, who was one of the founders of Skype. So, we really pride ourselves on being entrepreneur-friendly and, trying to help the portfolio companies in our roster.
Stefan Moraes, Caixa Capital, proud supporters of BETI and the Lisbon Investment Summit. And we're the private equity VC and fund of funds arm of Caixa Geral de Depósitos. And on the VC side, we've been very fortunate to support and to invest in the majority of the Portuguese companies that have raised significant rounds abroad. But we also do a lot of seed stage investing because we think it's important to actually set the standard and to get in quickly and try to help out when we can.
Hugo?
So, Hugo Gonçalves Pereira from Schilling Capital Partners. I'm one of the founding partners of Schilling. Schilling is a business angel vehicle, business angel fund composed of 6 business angels that has been investing since the last 5 years. Uniplaces was actually our first investment. We come in, so we're the small kids on the panel, so we invest small tickets at the early stage, and we try to support the entrepreneurs in growing and getting their first investment from funds like Caixa and Atomico and others.
And Miguel.
I'm the really small kid on the stage. and I'm Miguel, one of the 3 co-founders of Uniplaces, living, kind of splitting my time between London and Lisbon, but majority here, 130 people, and one of the lucky guys to have all these guys on board. Kind of missed on Hussein, or Hussein missed on us, we'll never know. And yeah, super happy to be here.
So, Miguel, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what Uniplaces does for those people who don't know, and when you guys started and how long the voyage has been so far?
Sure. So we are a Lisbon-based startup. So we got founded in 2012, 3 co-founders. I'm from Porto, so I speak Portuguese, you'll get the accent. But I moved south in 2012 with Mariano and Ben. We're today 140 people. All the main teams are here, other than finance, who's in London with our co-founder Ben. We're an online platform for student accommodation. So ideally, 3-4 years from now, we're going to be owning the whole student demographic. There's 160 million students in the world, and we believe there's opportunity there to be a global brand owning that demographic. We're operationally today in the main markets in Europe. We're trying now to also have established local offices in Spain, Italy, and Germany. And we've basically raised so far just over 25 million euros. Last round led by Caixa and Atomico. And I think that's pretty much it. So we did a Series A in last year in November. And we're really excited to kind of dominate Europe in the next 18 months.
So where did you come up with the idea?
So I'm actually 26. So when we started, I was 22, and I just kind of left college. I studied a bit of the UK and the US, and actually the 2 of us were international students living in the UK. Another one was a British student moving from London to Nottingham, and we all faced similar challenges. The main one being accommodation, the first step into the student journey. And when we actually came back to Portugal, we decided to kind of develop a few different ideas. And we looked into what was happening in the travel space. The whole kind of evolution from classified portals into the vertical transaction marketplaces like Airbnb. So the whole home away move to Airbnb. We kind of thought about Airbnb. We were not really fans of like copycatting other ideas, and we realized there was a huge potential to do a similar disruption, but in a new vertical. And students was something very close to us and quite unique to disrupt.
Got it. So Hugo, you were the first 150,000 into Miguel's company when he was 22 or 23.
Yes.
What did you see?
Well, it's actually a nice story because Miguel was seeing the problem. Miguel and Ben and Mariana were seeing the problem from the student side. So they felt a difficulty in finding rooms wherever they went to study. And I felt the problem from the other side because my family used to, well, add a few rooms in Coimbra to rent out to students. And it was a pain. It was a pain to actually get to the students. You had to post little papers on university. You had to, do visits, call them. It was a big burden. And so we thought there's so much demand, and why does this take so much work? And so when Miguel presented in a business plan competition, Miguel and the team, I identified right away with the problem. And I think a lot of the startups usually try to find this problem. And when they find an investor that identifies very clearly and understands the problem from inside, they can quickly create this connection, and that's what happened. And besides that, obviously, they had a good sort of vision and a lot of drive to take this forward, and so it was as simple as that.
Was there a product there? Was there a technology? Was there a marketplace that was working, or was there a bright set of young guys with a really ambitious idea?
Well, to be honest, it was just more or less a business plan and an idea. And to be honest, I don't know if today we would have the courage to do the same investment at the same stage. But basically, they had a WordPress site with, I think, 50 properties, more or less, 40, 50 properties. No transactional, so the business wasn't like it is today. It was just a listings business. And so it was just believing that there was a big market and a team that could tackle it more than anything else.
Big market and team. So Miguel, what did you say that convinced him on the team side?
I don't know. I used to say I was playing a bit Portuguese. They loved kind of the foreign spirit to it. I was a bit lucky to have 2 international co-founders in the team to start with. Of course, they're like, these guys had Mariana was like a launching group in Asia. Ben knew a bit of the financial side, which is usually kind of a rare thing in the tech space. So I think we had complementary skills that kind of formed that. And I think more than anything else, we had a problem that we didn't really create. It was an apparent need. And I think we were super passionate to do something big from quite early on. And I think something interesting is what I see now is everyone from Portugal want to have a global kind of win a global opportunity and kind of build something big. And I think probably at that point in time, there weren't that many companies trying to kind of aim big from Portugal.
Gotcha. So maybe it would be helpful for the audience just to walk through the quick financing history from 4 years ago to today so that the stage is set. So Hugo wrote the first check at the seed, then what happened?
Actually, so maybe you know the story better, but so in 2012, summer period, so we actually launched bootstrapped from January 2012 until June, July. We raised the first seed round, 200,000 euros. Hugo led it from Schilling with 2 angels from the UK. There was actually quite an important component there. We always had this kind of drive to have an international outreach. So we got Alex and William Reeve. Alex was running Zoopla, kind of the second biggest real estate portal in the UK. So that gave, I'm sure, Sam validation to the model and some comfort to Hugo that he knew, okay, this maybe has something to work on. Then a year later, we raised the first 700,000 pounds from Octopus. We did a follow-on round a few months later of 2.2 million sterling. And then last year, we raised the 15 million sterling to really consolidate the model in Europe, kind of get really product market fit and start just really growing within the European market.
So Carolina, you led the 15 million pound round. I think you guys did 10 of the 15. What did you see at this stage that was in the business? Was it just Miguel and the market, or were there a lot of good metrics behind that as well?
Of course, Miguel was a large component. I think in addition to sort of a hungry team of founders that have different skill sets, a large market, and a very strong pain point, which is what we look for in a lot of these businesses. What they had been proving in the early days with some of their more mature markets like Lisbon and Porto was that the model could scale, could work, and could do so efficiently. They had started expanding outside of Portugal with a very degree of success, so there was still a lot of things that they had to prove between Southern Europe and the Northern markets. But they had proven that in Spain they could grow very quickly. The story in Italy is doing very well, and so we saw a lot of the early signs of a potential of what could be, you know, a European winner, potentially a global winner, which are the kinds of stories that we love, and that we think that we can then, you know, help deploy the right sort of adjacent sort of skill sets to help with as well. So we felt at the beginning, you know, for us, Series A is still sort of on the earlier side of where we play. But, you know, strong team, very hungry, large market, sort of had all the right components of what could be, you know, a great story.
Excellent. And Stefan, you put money in at the same time or just a little bit before, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So normally you guys do seed rounds. So what did you see? You know, this was a little bit of an early A, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually tell the story maybe from the beginning, because I've known Hugo for 16 years, maybe. We were at Harvard together. And actually, I know Miguel for 3 or 4 years now.
4 years now.
And so actually, Miguel is part of the World Economic Forum Global Shapers community. And when I met Miguel, I wasn't actually at Caixa Capital at all. And in that kind of group, we kind of select people which are really, really high potential, young people below 30. So I was very fortunate to meet Miguel and recruit him into the World Economic Forum. And it then turns out that when I joined Caixa Capital, which is about 3 years ago, we decided we had been negotiating already an investment in Schilling, so we ended up being, the part shareholders of the business angel vehicle, and we were extremely happy that Schilling invested in Miguel, and then we followed the company on a personal level and on a professional level for a number of years. It turns out that when Octopus came in, our investment strategy was only still focused on sort of Series A and above. Otherwise, we would have probably come in on a much earlier stage. So the right time to actually go in for real was a little bit before Atomico signed the deal, because we really wanted to support the team to get a good Series A or B, whatever you want to call it. And I think our function in the market is also to either support companies coming out of, for example, the Lisbon Challenge, where we put in 100K, and then you lead the companies into a sort of seed round of about 1 million, and then you co-lead or follow a Series A with Atomico or others. Or we get in a little bit later on a pre-Series A level or Series A level already when things are moving and there is proven traction. And I think there's a number of companies in the country, and certainly Uniplaces is one of them, but there are others that are up and coming, where we follow them extremely, extremely closely. And while we were not investors, we would speak very, very often, not only with Hugo, but with Miguel. So we're always it's a relationship industry, as you know. So we're always very close. Whether we are shareholders or not, we're always very close.
And Miguel and Carolina, how much time did you guys spend before the big round kind of crystallized? How deep did you guys get to know each other, or was it you came in and you pitched and out came out a check on the other side?
Carolina knows the round.
Super easy, right? Yeah, we were just talking about that it was last summer, and typically over the summer people say things slow down, but it was actually quite busy last year. So we were looking at Uniplaces initially. We had heard of the company, we had been following the company, we never formally met them. It seemed like it was too early for us.
How are you following them? Just through the market?
Through the market. We had seen the Octopus round, and we were sort of, looking at those different kinds of plays in real estate, and we know some of the people in there, like Alex Chesterman. Then Ben came in for the pitch when they were raising. We were very impressed by him. We were impressed by how quickly the company had grown. We had a follow-up meeting where we had, more people from our IC, where all the founders came up to London. Then some of us came down to Lisbon, met more of the team sort of beyond the founders. It's something we like to do. Spent more time together. And then, eventually did the deal. And now we continue to spend all this time together as well. They'll be in Sweden this week for our event. So, we like to spend as much time as possible with companies. These guys had a timeline. There were sort of other things going on, and so you have to be quick and dynamic as well. But as everyone knows, it's a little bit like a marriage, right? This is sort of a long-term engagement. You have to make sure you like these people as people, and you can also sort of test a little bit their decision making in the process as well.
And Miguel, how competitive were these rounds as you were kind of putting them together? Because it sounds like there were three distinct financings so far.
I'm sure like my co-founder Ben could definitely write a book on that. Just actually saying like it was surprisingly fast around with Atomico. We had we're speaking with several companies, but really like from the point maybe Ben first had a first meeting with you guys until you came to London like 2 weeks later, a week later we had a term sheet. So that was extremely fast for us. So that was a really good surprise. And then actually Stefan came in a bit earlier than that. So actually the process now kind of seemed great. It was a hell of a journey. I think Ugo would share that with the kind of the board meetings before. So I think we kind of almost mistimed it. And I think timing is something for entrepreneurs and who's ever raising. Getting the timing right is absolutely crucial. We should have waited a bit longer. I think we started raising a bit too early. But yeah, I think we got really lucky. I think we worked really hard for it, but we got lucky in the end. And about I think the time these guys spend with us is I think we've been really fortunate. Giving an idea, I probably call someone from Atomico definitely every week, sometimes every day. Dan Hines today looking into hiring. Matthias or Caroline or someone, Neil was, and I think you guys built an amazing network of entrepreneurs in residence. The guys who built, Neil built Uber outside of the US. Carter, who sits on our board, built product at Skype. So really an astonishing kind of club of people that you can really get access to. These guys are spending a day, sometimes every month with us, and that's been really good with us. And I think Schilling has been with us since the very early on, and we still have kind of monthly board meetings, and we still spend time together. And on Sunday night, I was with Stefan at his house, so I definitely spent time with these guys. So I think that has been something really fortunate from us.
So Hugo, outside, you were telling me that this is probably one of your biggest and most successful investments in the portfolio. Hopefully not the only one, but right now today, kind of one of the fastest growing. What are some of the kind of takeaways or lessons that you've seen from Uniplaces that you've kind of crystallized into your investment thinking?
So yes, definitely Uniplaces is one of our most successful, but not the only one. Unfortunately, we have a very good portfolio, and we're proud of it. But I think from Uniplaces, we took a lot of lessons in the sense that when you look back at the fundraising history of a company, it always looks easy. You see the rounds, you do this history in 2 or 3 minutes, but every round is a big challenge. It's a challenge because the current shareholders want some outside validation, and besides that, the founders want the best valuation possible and the best investor possible. There's this tension between timing and valuation and the amount of money. And so it's never easy to say, should we raise 1 or 2 or 5 million and at what valuation? Because there isn't a guidebook that tells you, well, the first round has to be 200 and the second has to be 1 million. It's just these financing rounds shape up in different ways. And I think entrepreneurs really also don't know in the beginning how much money they're going to need. And so I think what I learned is that you need to start working on fundraising from the beginning. You need to establish your connections early on, even if you don't need the money right now. You have to reach out to investors, keep them updated, keep a list of ongoing contacts, because that's going to be critical when the time comes that you need to knock on their door to ask for money. So that was clearly one lesson. The other lesson is the challenge of growing a team. When a company grows as fast as Uniplaces, you have to, at a certain point, almost double the team on almost every 3 to 6 months. And so you are hiring all the time. Miguel, we actually shared an office. I used to see him day in, day out, interviewing people all the time. And it's very difficult to grow a company and maintain a certain culture and to get the best people. And so I think to have and entrepreneurs don't think that HR is really one of the most important functions in a startup, just because they think product or market. And I think it's critical for someone in the team to actually focus very early on getting the best people very quickly and having a process to select those people.
And Stefan, were there any other lessons that you would kind of give the Lisbon community? Because I think Uniplaces is one of the big kind of success stories locally, right? So are there things that people can take away from kind of this financing?
Yeah, I mean, running the risk of saying something obvious, eventually we have been finding that our best investments are really when we choose entrepreneur over product or entrepreneur over the solution. I think that when we've done in the past some things which were maybe the product was more different or more unique, but we were kind of not sure about the team, things didn't turn out right. And 8 out of 10, when you pick the right people, it's going to work out somehow. Might not be perfect, but things will evolve. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the case of, obviously, with Uniplaces, very strong founders, very ambitious in a good sense. And what we found also when we invest, be it, pre-seed or, say, Series A, like the one we just announced today at Movo, I think we see that the founders are the driving force, and we are really there to support them and reinvent themselves when they have to. And they do reinvent themselves very often. And I think that Uniplaces could say the same, and every single company goes through massive reinvention, not only hiring lots of people, but actually changing the business model, the segments, everything. And so it is very important, particularly for an ecosystem like the Portuguese one, which is a very young ecosystem. I think when people say in London we are very hands-on, you bet here we have to be very hands-on, because we don't have the other support of the rest of the ecosystem where just by default things kind of happen in the background, or the back office of the funding process happens online in the valley. Everything here has to be done in detail, and the role of investors is even more important, particularly because Atomico doesn't come in at 200K, right? We have to build up the companies until they're ready to, for Atomico and other great investors, which are much more experienced than us, to actually come in and to do their part of their role.
And Carolina, was this your first Lisbon investment for Atomico, or first Portuguese investment?
It was our first Portuguese investment.
One of many, they promise.
And will this be your last, or?
No, absolutely not. I think we're constantly trying to find great companies here and great entrepreneurs. We believe that great entrepreneurs can come from anywhere, and so we're always trying to develop our relationships in different ecosystems. I think, as everyone has mentioned, it's all about relationships and the people you trust, and people you trust bringing you, new people. And so that's why I'm here today, and always looking for the next big company.
And how do companies who might not be as socially connected as founders that are very international, how would they work the system to get in front of you?
Right. I think that reaching out, I think one of the things that we heard here is setting up your funding strategy. Always thinking about the next round is super important. I think a part of that is thinking about, for instance, who are your angel investors, and being really thoughtful about how you're setting up your structure, who are you setting up as your angel investors, really hustling, reaching out to people who might have some expertise in your field or who might be well connected. And you'd be surprised, I think, by how receptive people are. Once you bug them long enough, and if you have something that is interesting, they will connect you with other people. Large investors will talk to you. I think recently in the past year, we actually did a deal that came through sort of our inbound emails that came in cold, which doesn't happen frequently, and I don't recommend the cold inbound as the best form of communication. But I think that working your network, be it through LinkedIn or whatever it is, in any angle that is creative, etc., particularly today with things like LinkedIn, eventually you'll create a path to get to the right investors for you.
Excellent. Well, let's open it up to the floor. Does anyone have questions from the audience? Just a show of hands if you do. Right up here in the front. Does someone have a mic? I guess we'll do one and then two.
So I'm going to be the first one in the room making a question. I'm from Nestle, a big company. And first of all, thank you for you guys sharing this excellent example of unique places. Congratulations. And my question is, I was listening everyone, Carolina, Hugo, Stefan, Miguel, and my question is, aren't you afraid to become too much big?
Too much what? Too much what?
Too big.
Are you afraid of
Yes,
becoming
too bigger,
too big?
because you were referred that you are fast, you have to be hands-on. Everything is based on the relationship and networking and people that trust in your idea and your project. And my question is about the corporate side of companies such as Nestle, where we are not best in class in terms of speed. And this is the question: are you afraid in somehow to become too much big in this?
Okay. I think there's two parts of the question. I think one is the hierarchy, corporate kind of mess that we startups try to get away from it. I think there's a lot of ways, and actually we're working a lot with Dan to kind of make sure we have a structure where I think we've actually learned a lot from I don't know if you guys know Supercell and the way they're building their company. So the founders are our backers. They're also part of Atomico's portfolio. And there's a lot of different ways where kind of this kind of Facebook Supercell's trying to reinvent organizational structures. Just by the way, we have 3 founders leading the business, right? A co-CEO structure is something that is not very comfortable for the majority of us, as we know, organizational structures. What we usually say is investors are asking us kind of all type of ROIs, they're asking us to grow phenomenally at 500% a year, but at the same time, almost hoping that we kind of fall into a typical standard hierarchy organization, right? So I think there's a way for us to reinvent organizations as they are. I think Ilke from Supercell has been doing a phenomenal job there, and it's something that we really taking care, right? If you come to our Lisbon office, you feel that the way we're trying to do stuff is slightly different. But there's always the risk of getting to that. The other side is we're definitely not successful or big yet, right? I think that's something that maybe the Portuguese ecosystem, we start bumping into that. We don't have huge success case studies in Portugal yet. I do believe we're going to get them, but that's one of the things that I think we're missing still is having kind of this unicorns, the billion-dollar companies out of Lisbon, right? And that has to change, because if you really realize one of the largest tech companies in Portugal, Novabase, which is listed, it's only worth, and only, please don't kill me, 65 million euros market cap. On average, you need double that amount to get to a billion-dollar valuation. Farfetch, probably the example that we all know about, is into that trajectory, right? So the Portuguese ecosystem still has to develop a lot more. Unipay is not a successful exit or case study there yet. I think we want to build much bigger than what we are today. I think you have great examples out there: Seedrs and Babbel, TalkDesk, Feedzai, Hole19, trying to look for more. I think there's a lot of Codacy One, Web Summit. So there's a lot of interesting examples there, but we're still missing 3, 4, 5 big case studies. OutSystems doing a great job there, but we need those guys, right? And I think part of what these guys are saying is we don't have those success case studies. So as a founder, it's hard for us. I'm trying to speak with Anthony, I'm trying to speak with a lot of these guys, but we're learning from each other. But we still need to meet the José Neves out of this world, and Ilkes and all these other, Ricardo from King, all these other guys who can then be inspiring stories for us. So we have a lot, because these guys need deal flow. And deal flow will only come if real success case studies happen. And stock option is still an issue in Portugal. So we need to still solve a lot of big stuff. And I don't think we are as big as people think we are. There's a lot of media around, but we're trying to grow into a really huge company. And we're going to work with, hopefully, the best to kind of avoid some of the normal pitfalls that some large organizations kind of end up having.
Well, I think we're out of time. Yeah, thank you very much. Give a big round of applause for all the panelists.
Long answers, short questions. Sorry.
Yeah.